Hello. I thought today I would do a flip through of one of my little journals. Somebody that I know, quite a close friend, said it was a good idea. So I thought, yeah, we'll give it a go. I don't know if anybody will be interested, but it'll be quite nice to look back on some of the pages in my little journal. I use these. They're not particularly supposed to be journals for wet media. They're supposed to be for creating scrapbooks, little mini scrapbooks. They're from The Works, a budget UK craft store. They sell books, magazines, jigsaws, but quite a lot of craft and scrapbooking and mixed media supplies as well. And they're quite reasonable, so I can use these without worrying about it costing me a lot. So these little books, they're 6 by 6, they've got 40 sheets. Sometimes if the pages wrinkle a lot, I will, once it's finished and dried, glue 2 sheets together so that it gives it a bit more body and stops it wrinkling. The good thing is they have these ties, which once everything's dry, you can tie it quite tightly and it flattens the page out. As I say, they're £2 and I just think they're great. I'm not into buying mega expensive journals. Some people are. It's up to you. So I put that away. So this is my latest one. I seem to have filled it up fairly quickly. I try and do journaling every day. Sometimes I go astray and I'll go off on a tangent and I'll make some ATCs. But if I don't do something every day, I do miss it. Anyway, no more chat. We'll get on with the flip through of the journals. I'll try and get these out of the way. Make sure we're in shot. Yes. As I say, they've got these ties. You can take them off if you like, but I like to keep them closed with these. I'll flip through and give a brief, very brief description on each page, hopefully. This one, you can't feel it, but it's got acrylic wax on the top. That's crafty, but there's a lot of rusted elements. Burnt paper, stamping, more stamping, texture grunge paste through a Seth Apter stencil with rusting powder that's been rusted on the top. Basically very grungy and rusty. Just wondering if I should prop this up a little bit, maybe like that. That's it, we'll put that underneath. So that's the first page. I really like that page. This one, I'll try to be a bit quicker with each page. This is basically just collage, bits that I had lying around on my desk, little bit of stamping down the side, a little bit of random mark making. This has got some texture here. This is textured paper. This one is, again, purely collage, little bit of mark making and some stamping, and a book page. These, again, were all bits that were on my desk or in my pile of scraps. This is out of a Reader's Digest book. This one, I love this paper, and this is from a Somerset studio. It's one of the pull-out pages. This one down here, this is a scrap of my own braid background, burnt paper again. Oh, that bit hasn't stuck down. I'll have to stick that down. Some of my doodled flowers that I fussy cut out, a little bit of stamping with the Finnebar stamp, and then some of my words that I've done with my typewriter that my husband bought me for, I think it was last Christmas on my birthday. This one is particularly one of my favourites. It's got burnt paper, rusted paper, mark making. This is a scrap of a craft card stencil, one of my rusty paper clips, and a book page, and I've just highlighted particular words. Again, more or less collage and mark making. This was a little bit of embossed painted paper. I think these are stickers that I'd left over from a birthday card where you could put the number of the birthday on the card. Raffle ticket book, numbers, and again scraps of paper, and this was a jelly print, the background, and then some mark making. Again, collage, scraps off my desk, part of a 6x6 sheet of paper that I've just cut up and pieced together. This was one of the little cards that I have. Bought them off a friend. These, and they had pretty things as the words. I like to cut those up. They're quite a pretty pink. Mark making, a little bit of shading with pencil. More mark making. And here, that's quite a pretty one. This was, I quite often use this little book for experiments to see how things go. This is very textured. It's grunge paste, which I'd use the stencil with grunge paste, and then I put the grunge paste, the stencil face down, so the grunge paste went onto this, and it's leftover grunge paste basically. And then I was trying one of Seth Apter's sprays, which I think is this one, Tea, and I just sprayed it. Rusty paper clip, washer, and this is a stamp by Tracy Evans for All and Create. And basically just a bit of stamping, bit of splattering, more stamping. Now this page, I seem to be on a bit of a roll with this colour, or similar colours. This one I think is, I'm just trying to find the colour in my stash. It was either Waterfall, Niagara Falls, and I think, yeah, it was either Waterfall or Niagara Falls. Paper Artsy fresco finish paint, sprayed onto some rusty tissue and book pages which were in the background. Stamps, craft card stencil again. I love those craft card stencils. A little bit of burnt paper here and some more stamping on the top. This was a very, very simple one. The background paper is Somerset Studio pull-out sheet. I glued that on, and then I wasn't really sure what I was doing, but I had a sheet of rusty tissue just in my scrap pile at the side, and it had these lovely marks on it, and I thought, I'll just put that on. So I just put it on with matte medium, did a bit of stenciling with the craft card stencil, little bit of stamping with some stars and some lines, and then just these numbers and a bit of cotton. And sometimes I just like to look at the lovely papers, and I don't need a very complex page. Sometimes just simple makes me happy. This seems to have been everybody's favourite. I think it's the colours and the combination of colours. The paper at the background, I was trying to use up some of my stash of my Somerset Studio papers that I have in a pile. And the lovely papers, they're pull-outs from the magazine. So this background one with this little bit of writing was one of those, and I just glued it on. I'd got some burnt tissue, rusty tissue. There is a video on my YouTube channel here. And then these little bits here, let's see if I can find one quickly. Why is it you can never find what you want? No. No, can't find it. Anyway, basically it was a strip of painty inky paper, and then I'd cut some circles out for something with a punch. So it was the negative spaces that were left after I'd cut the circles out These, I coloured them. These I left them plain and just put some marks in them. Added some more marks, a book page. And because this was quite bold and I wanted a contrast, I just did some little scribbles in a very faint, a very fine pen here, and some dots to contrast against the very bold writing here. And this is another little bit of the burnt paper. Oh, and I did some additional splashes with some of Seth's ink, Eyes ink, and some little dots in some of the spaces. This was very, very simple. I was in love with the paper and I was in love with the burnt paper, so I just combined the two. The underneath one is actually a piece of vellum from a document which was from 1859, I think it was. And I bought a few of these. I think they're indentures or mortgage documents. Anyway, I bought a group of them, I think about 4. And I kept looking at them and thought, wonderful, wonderful. And then I thought, just use them. So I cut it up. I dived in and cut it up. And I just love the writing. So I glued it into there, a section of it. And this was a lovely burnt paper. It's deli paper. It's been rusted. And then I burnt it. Both techniques are on my YouTube channel. And then I just added a little bit of stenciling, with a paper artsy stencil in the background, and I think it was vintage photo here, and then a book page, and I thought that was enough. I love the beauty of the papers. As I say, sometimes simple is enough. I'm going to have to speed this up, I think, because it's going to be a very long video. Book page, words out of a word book. Book pages, music pages. This is an Art Daily square. It usually has a quote and a figure on it. Just a little doily and some of my doodle flowers. The background is created with infusions and antique pearl eyes ink spray, mixed on a sheet of fairly sturdy cardstock, and then cling film ruckled up and put on the top while it was still wet, and then left to dry, so you get these lovely effects. I did actually film a video, but my card in my camera broke and it just wouldn't play. I couldn't see anything. I lost about 3 videos because my card in my camera didn't work, got corrupted somehow. So that's that one. This one, very simple. Again, the same technique with the infusions and the dye spray. And it gives these lovely organic lines. And then this is decoupage tissue. That was just hand drawn to echo this. Another piece of decoupage tissue. Some stamping. Stamping with one of Seth's little mini stamps, which I cut up. And that was it. This one was basically just a lot of gluing. This is out of a book, a gardening book. This is one of the Art Daily stickers. Book pages, again out of the same book. This, a little bit of burnt paper, and this was just the background, the blue, was a braid off bit. If I have paint left over from a project or a page, I don't like to just wipe it away. I braid it onto somewhere in my book, and then they've got a start of a background. And this was some blue, white gesso, I think, as well, in there. And then the burnt paper, and then just the fussy cut elements combined. Oh, and one of my rusty paper clips. This, again, is a very, very simple page. I might do something more at this. It doesn't seem quite finished. It was braid off paint again so that I didn't waste it. Then I sprinkled some infusions on and activated those, which gave us a little bit of extra colour. Bit of stamping, and one of the fussy cut elements out of my gardening book. It was a Reader's Digest gardening book. Lovely pastel elements and pictures, not photographs. But I think it's not quite finished. It needs something else, so I am going to do something else with that one. I must have been in a morbid mood when I did this one. I think it was unwasted paint again. There was some orange, there was some cream, and then there was some, yeah, 2 layers, I think, of rusted paper. I bought some copper powder and applied it to some tissue and activated it with vinegar, and I got this lovely green tissue, but it wanted a bit more, so I put a little bit of the paparazzi rusting powder, so I got rust as well as green, which is a lovely combination. So I think I've got unwasted paint in oranges and browns and creams, then I've got a sheet of the copper and rust tissue, but then I've got another sheet of the burnt tissue on the top, a skull, a couple of paper clips and some words from a book. As I say, I do get a bit obsessed with the colour, so there's a few pages the same colour. This one, they're on the paparazzi People Facebook page. There is a step-by-step of this page, because everybody liked one of the others. I thought I'd show them how I did it. So there is a step-by-step on there. It's just in photographs, it isn't a video, but these are paparazzi stamps, rusted and burnt tissue. Another one in the same vein, same colours again. Again, burnt paper, bit obsessed with it at the moment. This is the craft card stencil, which I'd used to apply marks to a page, but then I cut it out. Stamping in the background. Also, this is my rusty water. This little jar here is rusty vinegar and water that I've rusted papers and I've had excess vinegar and water, so I put it in that jar. It's built up over the last 2 or 3 months, and I splash it on and it makes these lovely rusty marks. And then there's, oh yes, this is where I'd done the X's with this. And then a couple of paparazzi stamps, as I say, and a paper doll. This one, a lot of collaging, book pages, rusty tissue, music pages, anything that was lying around that needed using up. I brayed over some paparazzi paint, which I think was butter. Maybe a bit of gesso as well. I did some stamping, various places with paparazzi stamps, a book page, and this little slide here. There's a video on my YouTube channel quite a way back about using slide mounts to create vintage ephemera and vintage toppers. And then this is a paparazzi stamp again. This is a very simple one. I'd brayed off some leftover gesso onto the page, which there wasn't very much at all. A white edge with my white pen. This is the craft card stencils again. I use them quite a lot because I do love them. And I have a little roller that obliterates your name and address. If you've got documents and you don't want your name and address to be shown when you throw it away, you roller over it and it's letters and numbers. And I just did it over the top of this stencil. There's some splatters of the rusty water in there. There's some stamping and then a couple of words, and I just did some white pen in there. It's very simple. This is, let's see now, what was this? Oh, this was Somerset Studio, another piece of that lovely pink paper. And then I'd put some tissue over the top just to dull it back a bit. I did some stamping. I did a little bit of brayering with gesso, and then cut these out of, actually it was a die cut book for making cards. So I cut those up and pieced them together, and this is a set out to stamp. a little bit of journaling that doesn't show up, and a little bit of shading with a pencil. Very, very easy one. This was leftover paint. I'd done some collaging. You can see music paper. There was book pages. There was all sorts underneath there. You don't really see it, but just sometimes little bits peek through. Braid on paint. I think that was this one. Cerulean. And also, I think underneath here there's some rusty tissue as well. So probably collage, rusty tissue, braid on, a little bit of gesso by the looks of it, the turquoise paint, and then stamping. And then this is a stencil by Seth Apter. I've just, here and there, I've just inked through the stencil, done some rusty splashes. And then this is grunge paste through the same stencil. While it's wet, I've sprinkled on rusting powder, tapped the excess away, and used a cotton bud just to activate the rusting powder. And then I think it had a little bit of gilding wax, and then there's just a book page. But quite a few to go. Hopefully we'll get through to the end before the video finishes. This one, gesso on the base, just to use up the gesso. This was one of Seth's eyes ink sprays, which it was. This one, which, no, that's the green one. It was the turquoise one. Here we are. Turquoise, Blue Ocean. It's an eyes ink spray, just spritzed on. I think once it was dry, I spritzed on some water. Did a little bit of stamping. These are Paper Artsy stamps again, and these are my little doodles, coloured with rust water, and then fussy cut out, and then one of my typewriter words. This is my least favourite in the entire book. This was using up a unwasted paint paper. I glued it in, braid over it with gesso. Still didn't really like it. I might do some more of this because I'm still not happy with it. It just looks a bit ugh to me. But basically it's just a doodled flower and some marks to just fill the spaces. I think maybe I'm going to add some white as well, just to give it a bit of oomph, and maybe a border. I'm not that struck. This one. Ooh, let's see, where am we? Oh yes, now this I really liked. It's quite a lot of book pages and various things collaged underneath, which is my usual method. Then I'd got some of the paper where I'd punched circles out of it and they were in a line, so I put that on the top as well. Braid over it, I think with some gesso. Then I put some rusty tissue pieced onto the top as well. Various bits that were just left over. Braid over it again with some gesso, which highlighted some of the circles, as you can see. You can see them in the background. And then I used a circle stencil, I think it was an indigo blue one, to stencil on in vintage photos some more circles, so it's a lot of repetition. Some of the bigger ones, I actually did some shading with a soft, I think it was a 3B pencil. Die cut numbers, found words out of my little pot of found words. Whenever I'm using a book page and I have bits left over, I cut out the words. This is a little pot I made. And that was that. This one, again, book pages and everything, as you can see underneath, just using up scraps. And then I braid over, I think it was the butter, fresco finish. And then this was the eyes ink spray again in the turquoise. Sprayed on, and I think I actually topped it off with a little bit of this as well, cerulean. Braid on. So it all sort of shows through. And then we've got this stamping again. Fairly simple page. More stamping. Words out of the daily book and book pages. Done. This one I'm not that struck on, but it was an experiment to try something. I'd applied gesso. I'd got this one and the green one of the Eyes Ink dye sprays, sprayed them at the edge, added a bit of water and tilted the page that way so it ran. I did the same again with the green one, which is this one, which is Underwater. Are we still in shot? Yes. Basically, let it dry, added some linear stamping, some little circles with a white pen, and these are just stickers of my doodles. I doodle onto a sticker sheet and then cut them out. It's a transparent sticker, so you can see the background through it. Not my greatest page, it's not my favourite page. And then just a little bit of words, because I thought it was quite crazy. This one, very, very, very simple, but I just liked it as it was. I might put something else on it, but I don't really, I'm not sure. I think I'll possibly just leave it as it is. The underneath page was a page where I'd cut out some words. You can just vaguely see underneath there's some gaps in the book page. So I just put the whole book page on, gaps included, and then just put a sheet of rusty tissue over the top, which has got its own marks. And then round the edge, I just added a little bit of my rusty liquid. I think I did it with a paintbrush, and did some splatters of the rusty liquid. And then just added a bit of stamping, paperclip and a found word. Oh, two at once. This one, dunno, maybe needs a bit of something else. It was just a couple of pieces of scrap paper. I think it had some infusions on it originally. And some rusty paper artsy tissue in the middle, which has got various patterns and things on it. Set up to stamp, few splashes, bit of gesso before the stamp obviously, and then this is just a bingo ticket, raffle ticket, not bingo ticket, just added and had gessoed over that. Bit of journaling that you can't read, and then a little bit of stamping. I might add some white. It needs a little bit of something lighter, so I might add some white to that. I tend to go through the journal at the end and then see if there's any pages that need anything else. Nearly the end. Here we are. This was braid, paint again, gesso, paint. I think this time this was Blue Bio. Just a bit of stamping in Vintage Photo, and these were things that were just lying about on my desk. So there's Art Daily quote with a lady, book page, washi tape, some of my doodles on the sticker sheet. This one I finished today. I'd got as far as gesso braid on, few splashes of, I think it was a Lindy's spray. If I can find the right one. It was the green one when I find it. Must be the last one. Yes, this one. Moon Shadow Mist, which has got walnut ink crystals and also some mica in it. So it's got a bit of a green shimmer to it in places. That was just splattered on. This is, I'm just trying to think, that's a Set Up to Stamp, which I stamped onto some scrap paper and then I cut it up. And sorry, the video stopped, so I've just started it again. So basically, gesso braid on, splatters of the Lindy's spray, the Seth stamp onto some book pages, then glued on, and then these are my doodles coloured with rust. Oh, and this is a Seth stamp in the background as well. Last one. We nearly made it within the 30 minutes. And this is for, now I think you pronounce it Farrago. Anyway, Farrago Friday, Seth Apter's creative community. Every Friday there's going to be a list of 3 prompts, and we use the 3 things, and then you're allowed one other thing. So this week was the first week, and it was dictionary pages, which is, this is a dictionary page. Using your non-dominant hand, so I did some scribbles with non-dominant hand. And brown, well, it was already on a craft card page, which had braid on paint where I'd just used up paint that wasn't sort of needed, but I didn't want to waste it. And then I just added water to some of the fine liner. My fine liner was one of these from the works, and they aren't permanent, so you can scribble and doodle, then add water, and it moves the black, and it's quite nice. So I did that. I've put a few splashes of the rust, and I think that was it. What was my extra? Must have been the rusty splashes were the extra. Because these were all the dictionary pages. And then once it was all dry, I went over again with some more non-dominant hand doodles. So, I hope you've enjoyed seeing that. I've got so many journals. I must have about 12, 15, possibly more full journals. So I may every so often just do a flip through. So I might have to do it in 2 parts, so it doesn't go too long a video. But I hope you've enjoyed that, and I hope it inspires you to do some journaling.